A recording from inside the video review room during Argentina's World Cup match against Egypt spread across social media within hours of the final whistle. The clip lines up with the moment officials debated a foul that happened almost 20 seconds and several passes before Mostafa Zico's disallowed goal. And it turned a stunning upset into a global argument over who really decides World Cup football. That argument is still going, and it starts with the goal itself. Egypt was 15 minutes away from knocking out the defending champions. Zico had just scored what looked like a second goal to make it 2-0 over Argentina. Ripping his shirt off in celebration, Mohamed Salah sprinting after him in disbelief and joy. Then the review booth got involved, and everything after that point is why this match won't stop trending. The audio and footage tied to that review moment didn't stay inside FIFA's control room. Clips framed as the referee's communication during the check spread fast, stitched together with the disallowed goal, the yellow cards that followed, and the fury on Egypt's bench. Whatever version fans were passing around, the reaction was immediate, and it came from more than one direction inside Egypt's camp. Head coach Hassam Hassan didn't wait long to say what he thought. He told reporters directly that his team had been treated unfairly, saying he wouldn't dress it up with soft language, and would instead say plainly that we have been treated unfairly today. We have suffered injustice. That's a World Cup coach on record in the mixed zone, refusing to call it bad luck. Zico, the man whose goal got wiped off the board, was even more direct in his own on-field interview. He didn't hedge either, calling it what he believed it was, a game that had been decided before it was finished. Congratulations to Argentina on the World Cup. The tournament was rigged. They didn't need anything else, he said, before adding that the officiating had been unfair from start to finish. He wasn't the only voice in green. Reserve goalkeeper Mohamed Allah backed him up almost immediately, telling reporters the pattern was obvious to anyone watching. The refereeing was obvious in front of everyone. The refereeing was clear. We had a goal disallowed and we had a penalty, he said, pointing to the same sequence everyone online was replaying frame by frame. And it wasn't just Egyptian voices piling on. Former FIFA World Cup official Fernando Guerrero, who worked the video review desk at the 2022 final, went public questioning whether the review should have happened under FIFA's own rulebook at all. He said Argentina had 3 opportunities to regain possession before Egypt's disallowed first-half goal, arguing that under FIFA's attacking possession phase guidelines, the earlier incident should have fallen outside the scope of review. That's a former World Cup referee, not a fan account, throwing gasoline on a fire that was already spreading across timelines worldwide. By the time the final whistle blew on a 3-2 Argentina win, the conversation online had split into 2 camps. People talking about one of the great World Cup comebacks, and people replaying a review room sequence that felt, to a lot of viewers, like the real story of the night. Both camps were watching the same 40 seconds of footage. They just couldn't agree on what it proved. What makes this different from a normal officiating gripe is the sheer number of people with direct access to the match. Coaches, players, former officials, broadcast pundits, all reacting to the same review room sequence within hours, and all landing on wildly different conclusions about what the referees actually got right. To understand why that clip detonated the way it did, you have to go back to the moment the goal went in. Because the deleted celebration is the whole reason anyone was looking at that review footage in the first place. Egypt started the biggest match of Hassan's tenure by doing something nobody expected, taking the lead against the reigning world champions. Egypt stunned Argentina in the 15th minute when Yasser Ibrahim headed home from Marwan Atiya's corner. That alone had Atlanta buzzing. Then Messi missed a penalty and the pressure on Argentina kept building. Salah, playing what was shaping up to be his final World Cup match, was at the center of everything Egypt did well that night. In the second half, he set up the goal that should have put the game away. The African side doubled their advantage in the 67th minute as Mostafa Zico finished off a swift counterattack, following excellent work by Mohamed Salah and Hassam Hassan. Zico slotted it in from close range, tore off toward the corner flag, ripped his shirt off, and Egypt's bench emptied. Then the review started. Egypt's joy turned into sorrow minutes later as VAR spotted a foul in the build-up to the goal, deeming it void. The specifics of that foul are what turned a refereeing decision into a worldwide talking point. According to the description that circulated everywhere from broadcast analysis to fan accounts, Egypt had a 1-0 lead and seemed to take a 2-0 lead, only for the second goal to be disallowed after a VAR review determined that a foul had occurred. Around 20 seconds beforehand on the other side of the pitch. 20 seconds, multiple passes, the other side of the pitch. That's the detail that made commentators pause live on air. Al Jazeera's coverage noted that match commentators had stated at the time that the decision was beyond VAR's remit. But the decision can be interpreted differently according to the International Football Association Board's rulebook, the laws of the game. In other words, even people getting paid to explain the rules in real time weren't sure the review should have happened. Fox Sports brought in 2 former top-level officials to break down exactly what the video showed, and they didn't agree with each other either. Analyst Christina Unkel's colleague pointed to camera angles the referee simply didn't have on the pitch. Explaining that the foul happened in a corner of the field, the referee was quite a distance away. He might not have had an angle on it, and the assistant referee on that side of the field was way up the other end. That's the case for why the review was fair. The referee physically couldn't see what the cameras caught. But former Premier League referee Mark Clattenburg took the opposite position entirely, telling Fox Sports flatly that he didn't think the contact was even a foul, and that reviewing it at all was a mistake. "I don't believe that A, it was a foul, and B, there should be a VAR intervention to disallow this goal," he said. He went further, pointing out that the tournament simply hadn't been officiated that tightly all the way through. "My take on it is simple. This challenge, this type of foul, isn't consistent to the way the referees have been refereeing this tournament. They've been allowing some physical challenges. They've been allowing some physical contact," Clattenburg said. He also flagged the sheer distance in time between the contact and the goal itself, noting it must have been roughly 10 seconds from the foul to the goal being scored, calling it too long to justify going back that far. BBC reporter Dale Johnson, one of the most followed VAR analysts in the sport, put it even more bluntly for a live audience already glued to their phones. "Egypt's disallowed goal was completely against how this tournament has been refereed," he wrote. "You can't have a light touch where you don't give fouls for minimal contact, and then rule out a goal through VAR for a very minimal hold of the shirt." Telegraph reporter Henry Winter added his own reaction in real time, mourning the goal that got wiped off the board, as much as questioning the call, joking about how far back the review could theoretically have gone, before settling that it was probably, technically, the right call, just a painful one. That's the review sequence everyone was staring at when clips of the officials' communication started circulating. The goal disappearing from the scoreboard is one thing. The idea that people could now hear or piece together exactly how 3 different officials talked each other into wiping out a World Cup goal, 20 seconds and a full field away from where it happened, is what turned a controversial call into a full-blown pattern with the referee's name attached to it everywhere. That referee was Francois Letixier, and by full-time, he wasn't just a name on a team sheet. He was the most talked-about man in the tournament. Before kickoff, Letixier's resume read like a highlight reel. FIFA handed him one of the biggest games of the round of 16 because he was already considered one of the best in the business. One of the best referees in Europe was put in charge of Argentina's FIFA World Cup round of 16 match against Egypt, with France's Francois Letixier put in charge of the knockout match at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. He'd already handled 2 matches at this World Cup, and his career had been on a rapid rise. He became the youngest referee to have officiated a UEFA European Championship final when he took charge of the Euro 2024 final between Spain and England. None of that mattered to Egypt once the review went against them. And it turns out Egypt had actually flagged concerns about Letixier before the match even kicked off. Not because of anything he'd done in this tournament, but because of his nationality. Hassan admitted after the game that his federation had pushed back on the appointment for a reason that had nothing to do with officiating quality. The referee for the match was France's Francois Letixier, whom Hassan said his team had objected to ahead of the showdown, explaining, "We were objecting to the selection of the referee because of the French situation," a reference to Argentina beating France in the 2022 World Cup final. That's an extraordinary thing for a national team to say publicly, that they distrusted the referee's neutrality before he'd even stepped on the pitch, based on a final played 4 years earlier. And once the match ended the way it did, Hassan didn't soften that suspicion. He escalated it. In his post-match press conference, Hassan didn't just criticize the decision. He came close to accusing Letixier of deliberately concealing something. "What I told the referee was, this is unfair," Hassan said. "I said maybe he is carrying a scar or has something to hide. If somebody is trying to hide something, they often fail to hide it." That's a manager on the record telling reporters he confronted the referee face-to-face after the final whistle and accused him of hiding something. Whatever Letixier said back has not been made public. Guerrero's intervention from outside the match added fuel that had nothing to do with Egypt's grievances specifically. It was a technical argument about protocol, made by someone who used to sit exactly where the officials reviewing Zico's goal were sitting. His argument centered on a very specific piece of FIFA's rulebook. Writing on X, he said there was no foul on the Argentine player, and claimed that even if officials believed a foul had occurred, the incident should not have been reviewed, because it fell outside the attacking possession phase, the period of play during which VAR can review an attacking move leading directly to a goal. That argument matters because it's not a fan complaining about vibes. It's a person who used to make these exact calls at the highest level, saying the review itself broke the rules that are supposed to govern when a review can even start. If Guerrero's reading is correct, the conversation happening between officials in that booth wasn't just a debatable football decision. It was, in his view, a review that should never have been opened at all. And Ledixier's history added another layer people online were quick to dig up. He wasn't a stranger to Argentine football before this match, either. He's also famous for sending off Nicolas Tagliafico in Olympique Lyon's defeat to Monaco in Ligue 1. A detail fans resurfaced within minutes of the final whistle as some kind of proof of a pattern, however thin that thread actually was. Then there was the other decision nobody could stop talking about, the one that went in Argentina's favor and never got reviewed at all. Late in the match, with the score still in Egypt's control, Argentina's Alexis Mac Allister appeared to grab a shirt in the build-up to what became the winning goal. Hassan brought this up specifically, unprompted, in multiple interviews. The Egypt coach alleged that Mac Allister committed a foul in the build-up to Enzo Fernandez's stoppage-time winner, arguing the incident also escaped VAR scrutiny, and pointed out, "We have all seen the shirt pulled back and not even a VAR check." That's the pairing that made the review room audio so combustible online. One shirt pull 20 seconds and a full field away from where the ball ended up got a goal wiped off the board. Another shirt pull seconds before Argentina's actual winning goal apparently never even triggered a look. If you're trying to explain why fans started treating leaked review room communication as evidence of something bigger than a single bad call, that contrast is the reason. Fox Sports added one more incident to the pile before the match had even reached its final whistle. A missed check that Egypt believed should have given them a penalty. FIFA's own broadcast noted Egypt goal disallowed after VAR spotted a foul against Argentina's Lisandro Martinez prior to the build-up, which was the technical basis for the review. But Egypt's players kept pointing back to the penalty shout on Salah that never got the same treatment. By the time the full-time whistle went, Ledixier had gone from one of Europe's brightest officiating prospects to the most scrutinized referee left in the tournament. And that scrutiny was about to collide with an entirely separate controversy, one that had nothing to do with the disallowed goal, and everything to do with what happened on the touchline in the match's final minutes. Hassan's press conference after the match wasn't a coach venting about one bad call. It was a coach connecting every decision of the night into a single accusation. He told reporters flat out that he believed outside forces had shaped the result. Hassan insisted his team outplayed Argentina in everything, and alleged that FIFA wanted to keep Messi and the reigning world champions in the tournament, saying, "We looked better than the reigning champions, better in everything." But the result was influenced by internal factors on the pitch and external factors. That's about as direct as a World Cup manager can get without naming a specific conspiracy. And Hassan wasn't speaking in the heat of the immediate aftermath. This came in a structured press conference, with time to think about his words, and he chose to keep pushing the theory rather than walk it back. Zico's emotions ran even hotter, and it showed in how his post-match comments kept circling back to the same disbelief. The referee wasn't good, he was unfair. His injustice was clear. He persecuted us from the start of the match. He doesn't want us to win, he said, before adding that Egypt had been up 2-0, and watched the officiating turn against them from that point forward. He closed his interview with a line that spread as fast as anything from the match itself, wishing Argentina well with a bitterness that read as anything but genuine congratulations. Salah notably didn't join the public pylon the way his teammates did. According to Allah, the captain's message in the locker room afterward was about acceptance rather than confrontation. Captain Salah entered the locker room, gathered all the players and spoke with them, telling them, "Hard luck, it's over, it's God's decree and what he willed happened regarding what took place." That's a strikingly different tone from his coach and his strike partner, the senior statesman trying to bring the temperature down inside the camp, even as it kept rising everywhere else. But Salah was also at the center of the moment. That pulled this story completely away from officiating and into something far more serious. Late in the match, during a heated exchange on the touchline, cameras caught something between Messi and Hassan that nobody could fully explain. In the sequence, Messi appears to say something in Hassan's direction during the heated touchline exchanges, after which the Egypt coach immediately crosses his arms in an X shape. The gesture FIFA introduced to signal racist abuse and activate its anti-racism protocol. That gesture is not a small thing. It's a specific official signal built into FIFA's protocol for exactly one purpose. And the uncertainty around what triggered it only made the clip spread faster. There is no confirmed audio or official transcript of what Messi said, and neither Hassan nor FIFA has publicly clarified whether the gesture was aimed directly at Messi, Argentina's bench, the officials, or the broader situation on the pitch. Within an hour of the final whistle, that clip was sitting next to the disallowed goal footage on every football account online. And the two controversies started blending into one narrative in people's minds. A match where the referees and now possibly a World Cup icon were both under suspicion at the same time. Hassan's anger didn't stop at full time either. He told reporters he was done watching the rest of the tournament altogether. A comment that read less like a throwaway line and more like a man who genuinely believed the sport had failed his team. Hassan said he would not watch any more games from the World Cup after Egypt's elimination. Online, the reaction split almost exactly the way it had inside the stadium. Social media users combing through the match found more supposed inconsistencies to add to the pile, framing them as further proof of the pattern Hassan and Zico had already described. One post that spread widely captured the mood perfectly, comparing two fouls that got wildly different treatment. One widely circulated post read, "Imam getting punched in the face, no one batted an eye." Argentina making the exact same foul Egypt made, but in the box, no one batted an eye. Yellow cards getting thrown out for what reason? It was shamelessly obvious they didn't even try to hide it. Disgusting ref. Pundits on television, according to that same coverage, weren't much kinder, with several describing the officiating that night as inconsistent at best even while praising Argentina's comeback quality. By morning, the story had split cleanly into camps that mirrored the match itself. People defending Letexier's technical reading of the rulebook. People defending Egypt's sense that they'd been cheated out of the biggest win in the program's history. And a growing crowd simply passing around every clip they could find. The disallowed goal, the touchline exchange, the review room audio. Trying to piece together one single, complete story out of three separate controversies that had all collided in the same 90 minutes. Argentina moved on. Messi leads the defending champions against an Egyptian team looking to make history. And by the final whistle, it was Argentina writing that history instead, advancing to face the winner of Switzerland's penalty shootout with Colombia in the quarterfinals. For Messi personally, the night ended in tears of relief rather than controversy, with a goal that kept his final World Cup run alive. For Egypt, the ending was almost the mirror image. What was likely Salah's last World Cup appearance closed with his manager accusing football's governing body of tilting the result, his top scorer calling the tournament rigged on live television, and a gesture on the touchline that FIFA's own anti-racism protocol was built to investigate. None of those threads has been fully resolved. FIFA has not issued a public ruling on the touchline exchange, and no official transcript of what was said between Messi and Hassan has been released to clear up what triggered the gesture in the first place. The review room footage that started this entire conversation hasn't gone anywhere either. It's still being clipped, reclipped, slowed down, and argued over by fans, trying to decide for themselves whether Guerrero's protocol argument holds up, whether Clattenburg's read on the distance and timing is the fairer one, or whether Letexier and his team simply made the correct, if painful, call using every angle available to them. Dawn's coverage captured just how far that argument had already traveled beyond the stadium, noting that much of the post-match discussion on social media centered on allegations of inconsistent use of the VAR system and perceived bias against the African side. What's left is a match that will get remembered for at least 3 different reasons depending on who you ask. Argentina's players will remember it as one of the great comebacks of this World Cup. 3 goals in 13 second-half minutes to complete a run nobody outside their own dressing room believed was coming. Egypt's players will remember it as the night a 2-goal lead evaporated. Under a review they never trusted from the moment the officials were announced. And everyone else, the millions of people who watched that goal get chalked off, then watched a manager cross his arms into an X on the touchline, then spent the next day passing around whatever version of the officials' conversation they could find. We'll remember it as the match where the referees became as big a story as the football itself. Hassan says he's not watching the rest of the tournament. Egypt's federation has not announced whether it intends to file any formal complaint with FIFA over the officiating or the touchline gesture. Letixier, for his part, has not spoken publicly beyond what was captured in the immediate aftermath, and there's no indication yet of whether he'll be handed another assignment before this World Cup is finished. Whatever gets decided behind closed doors, the clip that made all of this possible is still out there, still spreading, and still leaving more questions than anyone in Atlanta that night was able to answer. IB Times UK, Argentina VAR decision questioned after ex-World Cup official cites 3 chances to regain ball. Al Jazeera, what was the VAR controversy in the second half of Argentina versus Egypt? The Mirror, US World Cup fans cry Argentina-Egypt is rigged, as VAR seems misused again. Dawn, internet calls out controversial refereeing after Argentina break Egypt hearts at World Cup. The Business Standard, messy exchange under scanner after Egypt coach's anti-racism gesture. Kelnow, Hassam Hassan accuses Argentina versus Egypt referee of unfair decisions. Fox Sports, Egypt goal versus Argentina controversially disallowed after VAR check. Fox News, Egyptian players, coaches complain about controversial calls and loss to Argentina. Rigged game. Football 360, Egypt v Argentina. What did Hassam Hassan, Mostafa Zico say? ESPN, Egypt boss bemoans injustice after loss to Argentina at World Cup. The week they wanted Messi to stay, Egypt coach accuses FIFA of injustice. Athlon Sports, who is the referee in Argentina versus Egypt World Cup match? 442, who is Francois Letixier, the referee for Argentina